Good evening. This is the Special Redevelopment Agency meeting for January 15th, 2013. Let the roll call reflect that all board members are present. First up on the agenda is the approval of minutes. The minutes for a special meeting and closed executive session of May 22nd, 2012. Board Member Gochner.
Thank you. I have reviewed those and found them to be accurate.
And the minutes of the work session of May 24th, 2012, and the joint study session of June 12th, 2012. Board Member Wicks.
Thank you, Chair Blair. I've reviewed those, and they are correct to the best of my memory, and would make a motion that we approve the minutes as reviewed.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from Board Member Wicks and a second from Board Member Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Next up is reports from administration. Turn it over to...
Oh, sorry. Mr. Christopoulos.
Chairman Blair, council members, the purpose of this presentation is to present the annual report, which you have already received. We started doing RDAs in the city of Ogden, to give you some perspective, when I was 16 years old. So, and that may give you an idea of how old we are at doing this. And don't say anything, but it has been a while since we started the first one. The first of those that we did were the Newgate Mall. RDAs have a long history in the state of Utah, and they stem all the way from the first gondola at Park City. So this continues on as far as our city is concerned. We have prepared and shown the 24 various districts that we have in the city. 19 of them are based in blight, and the others are economic development areas. Yeah, some of the highlights that occurred in 2012, and that's what I'll hit today. I won't hit all of the detail of the report, but I will hit the highlights. The Ogden River Redevelopment Project area has begun. I think we are all aware of the Neater's Bakery and Gear 30 that have begun, as well as this time of the report, 5 of the townhomes were under construction. They're now finished, and the 4 of the 5, I believe, are sold, and there are additional ones that are under construction. The CDB Mall, which is the Hilton Garden Inn, was the most recent project in 2012, which has been completed and occupied, and has been, we believe, a very nice addition to the area. And I think we've had a number of you into the hotel, and it's quite a beautiful addition. The Business Depot Ogden continues to be the kind of the quintessential evergreening project for the city. The original $12 million investment has netted significant gains over the years and has produced nearly $56 million worth of revenue to the RDA. The agency is continuing to play a vital role at BDA by using tax increment to continue to construct additional infrastructure improvements in advance of new projects. The 2 major projects that I think everyone is aware of is the Home Depot and Wayfair. Those 2 projects, they're the last project that was mentioned. The Wayfair project has also expanded. Employment continues through both of those and continues to grow. There are additional projects. Additional flex space was also under construction and is completed, and that flex space has also been occupied. There continue to be other prospective tenants that continue to look and go forward. We finished the South Wall Avenue EDA, which was designed to support the automobile development along Wall Street, and this is specifically for the Chevy dealership that was completed. Those are the highlights of the primary active projects of those 24 projects. of those, they have created and continue to move various projects forward, and as will be presented tonight, there will be 2 new projects that will come from the development at the junction. Also, in your packet, there is a financial report that basically summarizes the sources and uses. I will not go into detail on the sources and uses. I'll leave that for you to review. If there are any questions, we obviously, you can ask those questions now or at any time in the future, but it gives you a detailed accounting of how the revenues are generated and where they were utilized. And so that report is now added. So there also then will be updates to these on a quarterly basis as we go through the year. With that, I would entertain any questions that the redevelopment board may have of me.
I have one. Some of these areas are becoming older and they'll come due. Which ones are those that are coming up?
I can't enumerate them off the top of my head. By 2017, there are 5 of the districts or 7 of the districts that will actually sunset and will end. But I can't remember which ones. The 25th Street is near close.
It's reference it on page 13 of our packet.
Thank you.
But you are correct, 25th Street is one, and West 12th Street, Fresenius, and Fairmount, U.S. Foods.
And a few years after that, the airport and a number of others. So they'll continue to sunset and fairly rapidly because most of the districts are fairly old.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Okay. Can we get a motion to...
So with that, I'll make a motion that we accept the fiscal year 2012 annual report for the RDA.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to accept the Redevelopment Agency fiscal year 2012 annual report from Vice Chair Garner and a second from Vice Chair Garner and a second from Board Member Van Hoosier. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Next up is Junction Lot 8B. Will that be Mr. Bright? Mr. Bright?
Yep, Terrence Bride will be covering. He'll make one presentation if it's okay on these next 2 items.
Thank you.
Good evening. This evening I'm presenting to you 2 resolutions. One is an extension that was signed for the developer of the hotel for development of the parking structure and the 2 lots that are within Lot B for restaurant and retail development. The second is for approval of a second amendment that would allow that property less the parking structure to revert back to the RDA and be available for sale. That again, that is part of one resolution. But first of all, I'm presenting that to you. And then we'll move on to the second resolution, which is for the proposed teppanyaki restaurant and sale of property. Do you have questions on the first resolution?
Mr. Bride, I think we understood this earlier, but the price for this piece of property is going to remain the same.
It will remain the same, $19 per square foot. The only difference is that the parking structure will remain in the sale agreement and or the sale contract and the development agreement with Kevin Garn and his hotel development. The other two portions of Lot B will then revert back to the RDA.
And this one portion is the second proposal we're looking at tonight, but that other parcel is still available for sale through the RDA. It is still available
for sale. We have another party that is interested in that, and at a later date we'll be coming to you on potential sale of that property.
Thank you.
Yeah, will that stay at $19 a foot then?
Yes.
Also?
And Mr. Garn did sign the agreement.
He did. He signed the Second Amendment as well as the First Amendment.
And there was no tax increment involved with these properties, right?
No, there was not. No, that's correct.
Okay.
There's no further discussion. I would make a motion to adopt this.
I second it.
We have a motion from Board Member Gochner to adopt Proposed Resolution 2013-1 and a second from Board Member Stevens. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Board Member Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Board Member Wicks?
Aye.
Board Member Gochner?
Aye.
Board Member Heyer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gardner?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye. That passes.
And also, I'll make a motion that we adopt Proposed Resolution 2013-2.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to adopt Proposed Resolution 2013-2 from Vice Chair Garner and a second from Board Member Van Hoosier. This is a roll call vote also.
Board Member Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Board Member Wicks?
Aye.
Board Member Gochner?
Aye.
Board Member Heyer?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair, or excuse me, Vice Chair Gardner?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye. That passes. Thank you.
On the teppanyaki resolution for the sale of the property, Tokyo Station, I can address that now.
They've already voted on it.
We've already done that.
There's one requirement, and that is that the council, the RDA review a conceptual plan.
They know that, I think, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's been done. Okay. Thank you then.
Thank you. Okay. New business. Agency bylaws. Mr. Williams.
Good evening. You have two matters before you that are related, and they have their origins from a statutory change made in 2008 called SB 294. SB 294 changed the separation of powers for RDAs. What it basically said is that if you have a city that has a council mayor form of government, and that means that there's a separation of powers between policy-making powers and executive powers. That if you have that sort of city government, which we do in Ogden City, then that separation of powers carries over in the RDA. And so the mayor becomes the executive director of the RDA and has executive powers, and the board carries out all policy-making powers. And so when that was adopted in 2008, there was much concern over how to set forth the policy on your behalf, because one of the powers of the executive is to enter into agreements, especially real estate contracts for acquisition or sale. And so there was a lot of thought about what are we going to do, because in the past, all sales came to you for approval, and now you needed to set up policies to decide when incentives would be given as part of a sale and that sort of thing. At that time, Mayor Godfrey stepped up and said, I am willing to verbally commit to go with the status quo, which is I'm going to bring to the RDA board all real estate transactions for approval. So you didn't have to come up with these elaborate policy structure, that you could make that decision for each case individually. And so that's been a verbal commitment that's been now going for 5 years. And to the best of my knowledge, the administration has made a good faith effort to always follow that. But I think it's time that we put it in a document. And this document is going to be the joint resolution. So it'll be both the council and the board that sign this joint resolution that goes back to the status quo with a few clarifications. One was on options. It gives a formula on certain options and when those options need to be brought back for board approval. It also provides a clarification on utility easements and other small encumbrances that are consistent with the development project that you've already passed. And so those are basically all of the provisions of the joint resolution. And then the agency bylaws are simply to acknowledge the statute that requires that the mayor be the executive director of the RDA, and it sets forth the administrative policies of the board and the the administrative powers of the board and the executive powers of the mayor in the RDA. And it also provides that that you'll use the same rules of procedure that you do in the council in your RDA setting. So that's basically an overview of both of those two votes that you have in front of you. Do you have any questions? All right, thank you.
Can we get any further discussion from board members? No?
Do we need public input on this one?
Seeing no further discussion.
We received public input.
Oh.
Sorry. So we'll now accept public input, if there's any. Now seeing none.
Seeing no public input and no further discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2013-3.
I'll second.
We have a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2013-3 from board member Gochner and a second from board member Heyer. This is a roll call vote.
Board member Wicks?
Aye.
Board member Gochner?
Aye.
Board member Heyer?
Aye.
Board member Stevens?
Aye.
Board member Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garner?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye, that passes. Next is property acquisition and conveyance policies, and we'll receive public input on this also.
Seeing no movement, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt this one as well.
I'll second this one also.
Okay, we have a motion to approve proposed joint resolution 2013-1 from board member Gochner and a second from board member Heyer. This is a roll call vote also.
Board member Gochner?
Aye.
Board member Heyer?
Aye.
Board member Stevens?
Aye.
Board member Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Board member Wicks?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garner?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye, this passes. Next is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the board regarding your concerns or ideas for the Ogden Redevelopment Agency. City Council concerns should be expressed during a council meeting. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Travis Pate. I attempted to be here for the item 9 of the council meeting, but it also affects the RDA with regards to D-School interlocal agreement, the interlocal agreement. I don't understand why a building that's that's just basically 40 years old, 42 years old, needs to be torn down for proposed housing. The architectural significance of mid-century modern is yet to be defined. Weaver County Heritage Foundation, of which I'm a part, had a mid-century modern home tour this past fall, and it was amazingly well intended. The Weaver County Library was a public structure that was on that, and happens to also be the work of John Piers. And he also designed D Elementary School. His father was Eber Piers, which, if you study your Ogden history, the Presbyterian Church, the home of Samuel C. Powell, was also a joint effort of Eber's and his son John. And so to me, the significance of the space program and the elementary essentially being built in 1970 to reflect the landing on the moon, and we didn't have kindergarten, first, second, or third grade. We had Mercury pod, Venus pod, Mars pod, Jupiter pod. And so are we that willing to erase our current history by the demolition and destruction of the school? And I think that if this I'm going to approach the school board also, but I don't believe that the building should be torn down. It should be a reuse. And I would appreciate the council reflecting on that. I've brought you a jump drive with works from the National Trust for Historic Preservation, as well as Pennsylvania State with their preservation of schools. They have an amazing 32-page document called Rebuild, Reuse or Rebuild. And they found out that reuse typically is a lot more affordable. They have one school that was $108 a square foot to reuse. The addition was $136 a square foot to build. And so I would appreciate a reconsideration of even considering demolishing D School for its unique architectural history, its part in the national history, and its part in the local history. John Pierce designed Weber High School, Ogden Regional Medical Center, among others. So I've got a couple documents about like their obituaries that covers a little bit of that information. And John Ruskin actually said, let's say our hands have touched it. We have that monument at the cemetery. And Lawrence T.D. touched D School by far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. And the jump drive is an Angry Bird, so I hope you don't get too many other different kind of Angry Birds.
Other public comment? Okay. There you go. Comments from the RDA?
I'd like to ask a question, I think, more than a comment.
Executive Director, sorry.
I don't have anything at this time. Thank you.
RDA staff?
Nothing, thank you.
Now board members.
Sorry. You know, we were talking about the conceptual plan, and I don't know if everybody looked at it in their packet, but my question would be to staff, is this going to come back from the Planning Commission, or has this already been to the Planning Commission? The conceptual plan.
I can answer that question. It has not been to the Planning Commission. This was just to facilitate how the property could be laid out, the building could be laid out, so there's been no approvals of the building plan at this point.
So it will come back to the council?
It would go through the Planning Commission, Mayor.
Yeah, so we will see it.
Well, the approval will be the Planning Commission and the Mayor, the final approval.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other board members?
And with the closed executive session, we have a request to remove that from the agenda, so I'll make that motion at this time to remove the closed executive session from the agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a request to remove, or a motion to remove the closed executive session from Vice Chair Garner and a second from Board Member Wicks. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That's removed.
And with that, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Already did. I'll second it.
We have a motion from Board Member Heyer and a second from Board Member Gogner to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
As a reminder, a City Council work session will be held immediately following the Special Redevelopment Agency meeting. The purpose of the work session is to discuss the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, the G Avenue Capital Improvement Plan, amendment and budget transfer, and council business. A redevelopment agency work session will be held following the City Council work session. The purpose of the work session is to discuss the Trackline Economic Development Area draft plan and budget and other board business. Thank you.